Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and we're about to get started with the Dispatchers Roundtable, and this is going to be round 35. But first, as always, a word from our sponsors.
At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI net goes beyond industry standards, not only i3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Carbine, it's multimedia. You can get text, translate to whatever language, getting away with the legacy equipment and going into a cloud-based solution.
It's the first time in U.S. history that we have an EZNet through cloud-native call handling.
As a police officer, to have the victim go video, that's unheard of.
You're getting upgrades every month, not every year.
To schedule your free Carbine demo, please visit carbine.com/WTT.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
And we're back, abruptly. That always happens, man, when it's for the Dispatchers Roundtable, and it's only because I don't have a dedicated intro for it. I have to get back into my animation skills that I had in college. Like, I can still do it, but what I want to do is, in the animated part of the intro, have the boxing gloves come in and just like on, what was it, Rocky 4, was it? I think it's Rocky 4, something like that. That'll be my homage to that movie. But here we are, and I'm gonna hit this music.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Dispatchers Roundtable.
Good here. That's what I'm talking about. So once again, welcome back, everyone. And this is the Dispatchers Roundtable, and we are here for round 35. Holy hell. That's right. Round 35. We've got 35 hours or more worth of the Dispatchers Roundtable, and it's all out there, man. You check it out. There's so many awesome topics, and today's topic, awesome as well. And I'm excited to have all of you here. Please, in the comments, if you can, throw in there, roll call. Where are you watching from? And please make sure to share this broadcast, whether it be on your feed or your favorite dispatch page. Please and thank you, and some reactions. This live broadcast is sponsored by InDigital as well as Carbine. And a big shout out to patrons as always. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you, but especially those that are here watching, listening, supporting, sharing, all of that. Let's get that shimmy in there, huh? I wasn't trying to, but here we are. Here we are. So we got people that are jumping in here. Hello, Keely. Hello, Doug. This is going to be good. Again, Video to 911. That is going to be our topic today. We're going to be looking back at technology, where it started for all of us, right? And then how far it's come. There's a lot of different things. And I will say right off the bat, we're going to be talking about something that's very annoying when we're talking about technology, and that's the dot matrix printer. Very briefly, because who cares about that anymore? So anyway, let me pull up my my guest today, and again, this is going to be fun. We were already talking and chatting and everything in the green room before we went live. Erica, what is going on? Sunny Central Florida, 84 degrees. Snaps. It's only 70 here in Fort Wayne. But inside this room, it's probably 84. I'll leave it at that. It's super hot in here right now. Maybe it's because I've got this light that's just on my face. But here we go. We are getting started here. And my first guest here is Jenny. What is going on? Jenny is with Emergency Communications out of Rutherford County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well, except for the fact that it is hot as hell in here. Like I can feel my ears like beneath these.
Yeah,
these
it's only 58 here, so it's not too
I
shabby.
wish it was 58. What is that in the background?
That is my Sphinx. That's J5.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it left already.
He identifies as a person.
I dig it. I dig it. And then my next guest here is Roxy Van Gunny, director with Lawrence County 911. What is going on?
Hey friends, how's it going?
Oh, snaps. Welcome, welcome.
If we're all telling temperatures, it's about 50 here and it's about negative 32 in this office. So come on if you need to.
Dude, next time I'm gonna just head over there and we can just do this from your office next time, and I'll just bring a parka and it'll be good. Or I'll bring one of these hats. One of the ones that, dude.
We totally need a beanie.
Yeah, for really quick, for those who are watching, for those who are looking out for these, there's maybe like 5 left of all of the hats that I put out. They're already sold out, and I apologize. I will get more. I promise you, I will get more. It's been pretty crazy. So let's see. We've got folks that are jumping in here. I mentioned Doug. I've got Keely. She goes, I sort of missed the sound of that printer. Oh, okay. Before we get started here, actually, no, we're going to start with this first. So a quick introduction. I said your names and everything, but just a kind of a brief background on all of you. So Jenny, we'll start with you, please.
The 7th, I will be here in Tennessee doing this for 17 years. I was 3 years in Illinois, so 20 total.
Excellent. Well done. Well done. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Roxy?
I have worked in 911 for 17 years. I started in this center. I left in 2009 now. Yeah, 2009. I moved to the Great White North and started dispatching in Alaska. And I came home about 2014 and started back here and took over as director in 2018. So,
all right, excellent. Good to have the both of you here. And so now that we've gone through the introductions, we're going to quickly jump into that dot matrix printer. And the only reason I brought it up is because last night on Open Mic Live, we we were talking about some of that technology and everything, and I was telling everyone that when I first started out dispatching, I was working the lean console, which in Michigan they call it lean. It's it's just where we run NCIC stuff.
Right.
And that old printer that we had, if you ran a name, it had to go through that entire the entire entry before you could do another name. And this was summertime. So you've got drunk driving grants, you've got click it or ticket, all of this good stuff. And I would put in a name that it was like Smith. And that would be the first one. And it's just just over and over and over, and then rip it off there and run through. But also during that time, and everybody knows, you've got an officer who will key up and say, Central, you got to return yet? And you're like, dude, you have no idea.
Yeah, that's probably the best. Let's face it, in technology wise, that's probably the best that's come this far, gone farther. I don't miss that at all.
Yes, it was something else. Roxy, did you deal with any of that?
I did, yeah, a little bit. And then I think probably within my first year, we ditched the dot matrix and came on into the 21st century.
Yeah, painful.
Yes.
Very painful.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was really bad. It makes for, you know, a good story and everything, but still it was pretty bad. And one of the things I want to do here actually, and I meant to do this right off the bat before I brought the both of you on, but I want to make sure to mention to everybody who's watching right now and all that Rapid SOS has Ready 22 that's going to be coming up next week, and that's going to be November 9th and 10th. And I want to share the link here. This is a free virtual event, so make sure to jump on there, get registered. At the end of this, I'm going to mention this once again, but in a little bit more detail. And then also, I've got a video that I want to share. But again, make sure to jump on there and check it out. And I'm actually going to be their closing speaker during that time. So jump in there as well. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to be speaking about. You will find out when you get there. So there's a little bit there for that. And they're going to be announcing a bunch of different things during that time as well. So some surprise stuff. So for everybody, make sure to jump on that. And we'll talk about that more here at the end. But let's jump into some of this technology as we were talking. So we already threw that dot matrix one out there, but for the both of you and whoever wants to start first, actually, what was that technology like in your center when you first started? What was it that you were working with?
Well, when I first started, I had a map on the back of the wall and done everything by pen and paper with a desk phone and just, you know, right in front of me.
Now that is some technology.
Yeah.
I dig that. No, and so I can relate with you there. When I first started out in dispatching Central Florida, small police department, and I mean, we had some tech right in front of us, but like the CAD that we had, it wasn't like a name brand CAD or anything. We had a one of my coworkers, one of the dispatchers there. He was going to college for just like computer technology, and he created his own CAD out of like Excel. I have no idea how he did it, but he did, and that's what we used. But everything else, it was me pushing myself off the desk and spinning. I don't know why I added the spin, but spinning to the back to this to this bookcase and pulled all like the maps and everything else off of that to be able to figure out, because we didn't have, you know, the type of mapping that there is now. We didn't have that at all.
Oh,
that's how I had to check a warrant. Swivel around and look in the cabinet.
Oh. What about you, Roxy?
So I started with a little bit of technology. We always had a CAD here, so I was used to CAD. We always had some form of mapping here. Kansas is pretty good about, you know, being a little bit ahead on the mapping front. And then I moved to Alaska, and all of that went away. So I took calls on paper cards. I wrote about 45 pages of radio traffic every Friday night. We kept track of people on sticky notes. We had a phone called the bat phone that sat in the middle of our room.
Yeah.
And if we had a tsunami, it would start making this funny noise, and you had to turn the dial to get it to answer. And yeah, so I went from some technology to no technology back to technology. So
okay, so what was that like then to have what you had and then go to Alaska and you get there? I mean, it complete, well, one, culture change, right? Probably a shock there.
I couldn't imagine Alaska.
For sure.
No.
Well, I guess I went into that a little naive because I kind of thought every 911 center was sort of the same. Like inherently it had some of the same things. Yeah, no, not at all. That's not the case at all. And dispatching is different everywhere.
Yes.
So it was a huge learning curve because I'm like, I know that this could be easier and more efficient. I already know that. Why are we making it so hard? So it was steep to have to roll back all of what I knew and basically start from scratch. So
it makes you appreciate what you got, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. But I mean, you know, just having to keep track of somebody on a sticky note and making sure you didn't forget to type or write that they went to Nate, you know, it's tough and it's a lot of stress.
Most definitely.
Oh man. Yeah, no, and I agree as well. And so My next question here is, what about when you've been there for a few years, right? And then you have folks that come in who are new and they don't know about some of the, the old tech or the old school way. What I'm getting at is, I remember one night that we were working and our CAD system went down, and the person who was there was fairly new. I think they had just come off of training, and they said, "Ricardo, what do we do? What do we do now?" And I said, "You see this? This is what you do now." And they're like, "No." And I said, "Yeah, yes, like that's what you do. You have to write all the times down, and then when it comes back up, we need to enter all of those complaints and put everything in the narrative. So if an officer calls up for a number, nah, son, there's no number. They're gonna be pissed, but there's no number."
Right. Yeah. I mean, with me, go ahead.
No, I tell this story about how one time Snoop Doggy Dogg came to Fairbanks, Alaska, and in an outdoor concert venue. So it was in this residential neighborhood, and people were blowing up our phones. And we had so many cards that we couldn't keep track of them. So we would just put loud music in the address, and by the end of the night we had about 75 loud music cards that we had not responded to, did not know who the caller was, wasn't really sure when they had called. So when our CAD goes down, I just laugh. I'm like, nope, sorry. I don't have any sympathy, none.
I mean, for me it's like, going back home again, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I want to look here. So Doug says, "It's funny. I used to write pages and pages of calls on log sheets. Now it's a struggle just to sign my name."
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay. So a quick question here before we move on. Do any of you ever find, and for the audience as well, do you ever find that when you're simply writing something that you feel like, damn, maybe I should write more? Like you almost feel like you're kind of losing, that not so much just the penmanship, but just like you're writing, and then in my head I'm like,
my brain knows what to do if I have to write with a pen.
Well,
No.
and right, because we're so used to like autocorrect, right? So there have been a couple times where I've written stuff and I'm like, oh wait, this isn't digital. Like,
my husband has to write our checks because I can't even write out a check, but it doesn't work for me. Can't do it.
Oh man, let's see. Andrea here, she says, "My issue is I try to write in shorthand all the time." Dude, I feel you there. When I was in dispatch, and even now sometimes out of dispatch, and I've been out of dispatch for 9 years, but I'll be writing something, like for example, if I was typing send or en route, it would be just ENR. You would just type in ENR, right? And or other things, only so that you could be faster in what you were typing.
Exactly.
And sometimes even in an email, I would be typing it out and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is, I don't understand.
Because you expect everybody to speak dispatcher.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's just like when you're giving directions, right? When you're giving directions to somebody, or I have done this before, and I don't know if you'll say it the same way, but like for a phone number in dispatch, when I was in dispatch, we would say, "What's your TX?" And I've said that to people that are not in public safety or dispatch or anything. I'm like, "Oh yeah, hook me up. What's your TX?" And they're like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Oh,
squeeze me.
My bad."
We call it public service here, and I'm like, "Well, just give me a public service," and they're like, "Wait, what? What the heck is a public service?"
Yeah, that's what we call it here.
See, now that one is new. That one is new for me. I've not heard that one, but yeah, TX. And so Keely, she says, "I cannot write history without HX."
Yeah, no, she's right.
So there you go. So we talked about some of the technology and everything, and so how far have we come? What are some of the things personally for the both of you that you, I guess, kind of love the most? That some of this technology, not just the video to 911 that we're going to be talking about here, but some of the technology that you dealt with. What are some of those good things that you think about? Man, years ago, it would have been awesome to have this, but of course, it was years ago, so it wasn't available. But what are some of the things that really get you going about that?
Go ahead, Miss Roxy.
Ooh, goodness. Well, for me, I mean, Ricardo, I've had a lot of times in my career where I've struggled to find people. Like I couldn't find them. I didn't know where they were. When I worked in Alaska, we didn't have NG911. We had no mapping. So we relied on map books and our knowledge of areas that we had never been to and never seen. And we had some of that trouble here in Kansas, so just the advancements in mapping and how good it is to be so close to finding someone now. Like I don't have to sit on the line with, the AT&T center to trace calls and things like that. The efficiency of finding folks, I think, has been the biggest game changer.
Yes, I feel that. How about you, Jenny?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anybody would know where that they would be now if we didn't have internet,
right.
Children. But as far as this, this career that we've chosen for ourselves, I would definitely say, and hands down, just we use Carbine at my department, and I literally use it for everything. I mean, it was made for 911 calls, but I use it for non-emergency calls. I use it to assist deputies. And if I could have had that years ago, I do often think about the things that I could have accomplished and the people I could have helped if I would have had, something like that. Most definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, because I think about, when I have conversations like this with folks like you and others that have come on that are either from the tech side or from frontline side, a couple things. One, I get jealous, right? I get jealous because I wish I had that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to go back into dispatch just to be able to apply it.
Come on.
I know everyone's like, dude, we're hiring. Everyone is hiring.
Yes.
You want to do this part-time? Bring it on. But the other thing too is I think back at some of those times where I was taking phone calls and I couldn't find someone. And you feel helpless as it is sometimes on the phone, right? But when you don't have that type of location or anything, like I said, I've been out of dispatch for 9 years. We didn't have anything like that when I was there.
Right.
These calls stick with you. But something like that, especially if you can't find them or you just lose them and you're looking all over the place, that sticks with you even more so.
Definitely. You feel like you let them down,
Right. Yes.
You get in this job to protect and to serve and to help people. And if you can't help them, sometimes it makes you feel like, what's the point?
Right. And yeah, and it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
I want I want to look at this down here really quick in the comments, because there's a bunch of stuff here. So Micah says, I use shortcuts messaging my husband, and he normally calls and says, Micah, I don't talk dispatch. And Andrea says, if I'm giving directions, I always write or type IFO when I mean in front of, because that's what we did in dispatch and nobody knows what I mean. Karen says, I added ENR and OMW to my text short codes, so I just type that and it spells out en route or on my way.
That's awesome.
Yes, very well done. And Doug says, my kids can't read cursive. Evidently, they don't teach it in school.
They do not.
I couldn't imagine writing out call cards letter by letter. Now, I did see something recently. I don't remember where it was. It was on social media somewhere, but it said something to the effect of, like, in later years, because the generation now cannot read cursive or doesn't learn cursive, us older folks that know how to read it and write it will use it as like secret code later on.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. So let's look at video to 911, and let's look at some of the pros to what this is. So how does this tech help us? We were talking about location, the ability to piece together this puzzle better, because what is it that we do? We get a phone call, it comes in, we can't see what's going on. We're building this puzzle in our heads as they're giving us this information. So let's look at the pros. And Jenny, we'll start with you. What are some of the pros here of video to 911? And for those who are in the audience as well, please throw some of your information in the comments as well. If you're using video to 911, or just your thoughts on what you think it would be like for you in your center and all of that. So Jenny, go ahead.
The video to 911 clearly would be the location, being able to get an accurate location when somebody has no idea where they are. I mean, if you don't have a location, you can't send help.
Right.
So I think first and foremost, that's probably, at the top of the list. You got to be able to get help to somebody. And if they don't know where they are and you don't have no way of pulling that up, so I think that's definitely one of the biggest pros.
Let's see. Keely here says, I'm here to listen because we just signed to get software here for video to 911, and I want everyone's thoughts so I know how to roll it out to my people. So that's one of the things as well that we can talk about. So that's good. Thank you, Keely, for bringing that part up as well, because there are a lot of things that goes into implementing and such.
Right.
So we will make sure to get to that part here as well. But Roxy, what are some of those pros? So we got the location and all. What are some pros in your mind for video to 911?
When I was deciding on this, in educating myself, I think that for me, I think about all of those calls that I took that I only had pieces and parts of the story, right? And so your mind is kind of a big a-hole, and it starts to fill the gaps, and it's not always with good things. So I think about all those people that maybe, I couldn't have helped or didn't help or, didn't have the tools to help. And the story that I made up in my head about what was happening there, so with video, I kind of feel like it helps us not have to fill in those gaps. The story is clearly in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Our mind doesn't have to work overtime. So, for me, I think of it as a wellness tool in that respect, because your mind is kind of your worst enemy sometimes in this field. So
good call. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I agree with that, most definitely. I mean, along with the story, not only is it a pro for dispatchers, it's a pro for responding units, because
agreed. Yeah.
now we have the capabilities to where we can literally see what's going on, and we can give it to the officers in live time, because we see it. And we all know that sometimes when you get phone calls being a dispatcher, a citizen will tell you one thing, and when an officer gets on scene, it's something completely different.
Right.
What I'm saying? In this scenario, we see it with our eyes, so I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is really good, because I kind of think of some of the calls that I've heard about, and if video was utilized in some of these, the responses, of course, would be different. So, for example, and this is just one that I've heard, there are people that are going out for a CPR, right? Well, what if video was used? The response, of course, would be different with this specific call only because when everyone arrived, it turned out that the person was doing CPR on a birdcage. So, I mean, let's just say, that ended up being utilized, that would definitely change, right? The response.
I would most definitely think so. Yeah.
Kind of like a welfare check more so or something. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of different ways, that this can be used. And I do want to bring this up as well.
It can be used, with what you're saying, as far
Mhm.
as response, because they're running emergency traffic lights and sirens, right?
Yes.
Okay. So using this software or these capabilities, you get an accident on the interstate. You got people, fire trucks, officers, medics running, mock speed, and you have them accept that link, and everybody's on the side of the road, everybody's out of their vehicles, so people can back it down,
right?
Because that's your family, that's your work family, your brothers, your sisters, that's lives are not only in danger, but the public is in danger, running unnecessary speeds to get to something that's not necessarily needs them going that quickly.
Exactly. What are your thoughts, Roxy?
I think she's right. I mean, I think that, I wish in my scenario that our responders were more open to using video. Like I told you guys, we're pretty new into this. And, while our dispatchers have been really open and accepting and they want to learn and grow in video, some of our responders are less than open to it, and I get it, but I agree with Ginny. There's way more.
Yeah.
Just the world opens if we can see what's happening on the outside of our centers.
And
So.
it doesn't matter what platform you use, what company you are with. At the end of the day, it's that everybody goes home safe.
Yep, 100%.
So maybe they need to hear the stories. I have, Ricardo knows when I said I use carbine for everything, I use it for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dog tracks. I mean, it is a big thing for officer safety, and I think that agencies need to realize that, there's so much capability out there, no matter what platform you go with.
Right.
One of the well, before I mention this, let me ask this first, and for the audience as well, you can answer in the comments. When you first heard about video to 911, how did you imagine it looking? How did you imagine it was going to be implemented or used? Roxy, let's start with you.
I imagined that it would be the biggest disaster of our professional life. Truly. I mean, and not only that,
I get it.
I feel like it was something, just in my perspective, that was rushed and it was like, this is the next greatest thing and you should just get this and yada, 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 yada. And I felt like we were asking our telecommunicators to put themselves in even more trauma than we were already experiencing. I was a hard no. So.
It's understandable.
Jenny, how about you?
My thing for it was, we get prank calls all the time. So I expect people to be sending pictures they don't need to be sending, or videos they don't need to be sending. People know what to say to get officers out there, to get attention. And you pick up that call thinking it's an emergency, and it's not.
Right. Yes. Now, for me, I'm trying to see if I can find this on the fly, because this here is what I was thinking, that this was gonna be like, and I'm hoping that this is the right one here. Yeah, I think this is the right one. So let me see if I can pull this up here. And as I'm pulling this up, I want to look into the comments here as well. So Keely says, wasn't there a peanut butter and jelly sandwich they were doing CPR on in one of the open mic nights? Yes, you are correct. Yeah, there was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that somebody was doing CPR on. Drew says that for video to 911, it brings callers comfort knowing you can see what they see. It helps us connect to callers in ways just voice communication doesn't. Andrea says responders no longer have to wait until they're on scene to make scene safety decisions, which is good as well. As we were talking, response wise and everything, you'll end up knowing what exactly it is that you need to send out there. And it's like that, there's no time that's being wasted, any of those extra seconds. And then Keely says, all I could think about was someone was going to call 911 and pull the trigger in front of the screen for the dispatcher. And that too is a lot of things that people were worried about, right? Doug says you may also be able to see things in the video that could be safety issues for responders: needles laying on a table, guns on a rack, on the wall, large dogs running around, etc. And again, all valid points. They're all things that are good for that.
Right.
So let me see here again if I can pull this up, and there might be a slight echo. So if there is, it'll only last for a couple seconds, hopefully. But I want to play this really quick. All right, here we go.
Yeah. Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really? Hey there, guy. Hey there, little guy. Sweet. Remind me to buy tickets for Monsieur Gano tonight. Where's the music section? Oh, yes, this is it. Is Paul here yet? Huh. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Want to go check out that new place I was telling you about?
Sure.
This truck's really good.
Hey, just a second. Cool.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, man.
Got a new place, not that
See you, dude. Whoa, cool. Take a photo of this. Share it to my circles. Oh, I'm running late. Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey,
Hey.
you want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so that right there, that is Google Glass. And that was, I think it shows that was posted on there like 9 years ago or something.
Mhm.
And that's how long I've been out of Dispatch. So towards the end of Dispatch, this was coming out. And I cannot find the other video, but there was another video that someone posted of someone using Google Glass. And there was 2 different things. And one was to show scene safety for a fire call, okay? And another one was for medical. And I remember I was sitting there thinking, damn, this is going to be crazy. This is going to be a game changer if it's like this. So for me, 9 years ago, when I first started hearing about Google Glass, we were talking in Dispatch about what if video to 911 is a thing? And then seeing these concept videos of somebody in a medical, and it was like the classic, I've fallen, I can't get up type thing. And it shows the person, like the caller is using Google Glass, looks down at the person who's laying there, and they're going through questioning of what's going on with 911. So for me, that's what I kind of thought it was going to be like. It was pretty
Google Glass
interesting.
was pretty cool back in the day. That was a thing, like a real innovation for sure.
Yes, definitely ahead of its time. And as you could see there, you're able to take those pictures, right? And send it off right away, or have a, video call with someone else, and then they can see everything that you're seeing as well. So again, for me, oh, and the mapping, to be able to map certain things out like that. That's what I was thinking 9 years ago. Like, holy moly, like this is going to be interesting.
And it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not far off from that. It really isn't.
I like it. I dig it. So looking here into the comments, we've got here, or the liability of not seeing something that is in plain sight to a different trained eye, which that is a thing as well. So Andrea comes up here and says, we bring up the liability issues a lot when it comes to 911, which is why now, while there is no set standard, it is the perfect time for 911 leaders to set the best practices.
That's right.
Right there. That's what I'm talking about. So then, like the both of you, with the way that you use it, and Jenny, especially you've got a lot of use cases. We'll get to that here shortly. But those are the types of things that will help set those standards. So let's see. Doug says this is true. You could be looking at the call screen, typing info into the call when the only time the caller's friend behind them is visible holding a gun. Another way that this can help as well. Now, one thing that I want to mention before we get to some of the cons, we're going through this pros, right? So the last thing for the pros, and I guess this could be also a pro or a con, but what is one of the things that we deal with all the time in dispatch? That's not having any closure. So one of the things that I've been talking about since like 2019 is how when this is coming out, back then I was talking about this. What if the video to 911 actually helps us with our mental health and wellness when it comes to closure? What are your thoughts? Whoever wants to go first. And those in the audience as well.
I would say that this is my light bulb moment. When you were talking about how maybe this could be a closure tool for us, this got me from hard pass to let me learn more. It opened my mind to maybe educate myself a little bit more about maybe some of the closure aspects that video could bring. So I thank you for talking about that early and often, because it really did sway me to, seek out more information and try to get to a place where I could be open to integrating video into our center. So, we're one of a handful of centers in Kansas who do video right now. And I really accredit that to you for changing my mind. So.
Oh, thanks. I'm just,
Thanks, Ricardo. But
I'm happy.
I think the closure part too is how many times have we taken calls where it's just been left undone? And if we know, hey, this is probably how this is going to end up because we're seeing it, it's game changer, man. I mean, I feel like that is a whole different level of us getting better and us giving our people better tools to be more mentally and physically better, because all of those undone calls and the things that we don't know, that really takes a toll on our minds and our bodies. So I agree 100% on the closure aspect for sure.
I can attest that it does give you closure. I've taken suicide, threats, calls, juveniles not wanting to live, and being able to see that as a mom, being able to see that juvenile, to see, you can listen all day, guys, all day, but you never know what happens. You don't know the outcome. And when it comes to children, I don't care what any dispatcher says, it's different. Whether you're a parent or not, everybody has a spot in their heart for a child, and to be able to see them on video and know that you are talking them down from a ledge and keeping them there steady until help arrives, that is the closure at the end of the day that everybody needs.
And seeing their face, just seeing that visual confirmation that what you're saying is working and what you're saying is helping. We've never had that before. I mean, I think that's huge. And Jenny nailed that. I think just seeing that what we're saying is making an impact, I think is opening up a whole new chapter for us. I really do.
Yeah, we talk about the ripples that go out there, the impact, and we don't ever know. But just listening to the both of you, and as Jenny is saying, being able to see the look on one's face, not just hear their voice, but especially in those moments when you're trying to think of more to talk about, right? To keep their minds off of what it is that they want to do until help gets there, and then help gets there. And then it's not just hearing, the thank you. It's seeing it. Even if they don't say it, you can see it on their face that they're saying thank you. They just needed help. And whoa, that kind of got me there. That's a big thing. That is
pretty
important.
good feeling to when you have a situation like that, and your officers arrive on scene and you work with them long enough, some of them will let you know everything's okay, but now you can be like, yeah, I know, I seen it first, I know they're okay.
That's awesome. So let's look at there's a lot of pros, right? But let's look at some of the cons because there are some that could be in there. So what are some of the cons of this? There's is there a possibility that this hinders productivity, or does it, is there more time that goes into certain things? We're already in the audience, folks talking about liability and stuff like that. So um the mental health aspect is there as well on this. But I think one of the good things when we're looking at the mental health part of this is that a lot of the services that are out there, um they start with the ability to, things are blurred, right? And you get to decide whether to see it or pass it off to maybe a supervisor or
Right.
send it to an officer out on the road. However it is done, those that's a good thing, that is there. So what are some of the cons that you can think of, I guess, either one of you, on using video to 911?
I mean, I personally think, as far as the video aspect and dispatch goes, there definitely needs to be something in place as far as it being a decision. Like you said, if you get dispatchers coming in off the street that have no experience in law enforcement whatsoever, that could be very traumatic. So I think it definitely needs to be a choice if they feel comfortable with it. And also, I think it needs to be on the supervisor, or something to that effect. I don't personally think that a trainee needs to be thrown into a video call like that.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if you've never been in law enforcement, it's different from real life and seeing, TV shows, regardless
Yes,
what people think.
exactly. What about you, Roxy?
I think one of the things that we found is a struggle, maybe not a con, so to speak, is we're super slamming busy most days. I mean, we can barely get up to go to the bathroom or breathe. So, I mean, by the time we get a call and we're doing 900 other things with two people, sometimes thinking about video is just one extra step. So, it's been difficult to have them shift their thinking into integrating that into our daily workflow, because it is an extra step for them. And sometimes the timing and the things that are going on doesn't always allow for that. So I think that's been a struggle for us, just trying to slow down just a little bit and get it into our calls. But I agree with Ginny, and the respect that I think we need to be very careful about how we introduce this to new folks. And I also think that we need to be very careful how we handle people who do see traumatic things. I hope, in my best case scenario, I hope that this forces the issue for 911 centers to have some kind of peer support in place, have some kind of EAP options. I hope this makes that become a conversation to be had, because it's not going on everywhere like it should be. So maybe, in best case scenario, this forces people to have a conversation that they've been putting off. But I think we need to be very careful when somebody does experience something traumatic, that we're acknowledging that, because it is different than hearing it. I think it will impact them differently than hearing it. So that to me might be a con for people, as they walk this road.
Most definitely. I think, how they have debriefings for officers, for those type of calls, shootings, whatever. Dispatch is usually asked to go in, especially if they were on the radio or took the phone call or whatnot. But I think it would be, a good thing to have in place some type of a debriefing program just for dispatch if, it's going to be because agencies need to understand, it's not like you're going to have to pay somebody 24/7, that's not how it works. It doesn't, I don't, from the busiest of cities to the smallest of towns, it's not something someone's going to have to do every day, but it needs to be something in place that if it's needed, it's there.
Well, and I guess it worries me, I mean, especially here, and I'm sure in Tennessee, Jenny, there are centers right now that people come in and they're like, here's your paper and here's your pen and here's the radio. And they don't think about the fact that you're setting up these people to fail, taking calls that are life and death. So when we add video into the mix, it's my hope amongst all hopes that gets some of these folks to talking about it, because they're not talking about it at all now in some places. So it makes me worry for those smaller centers where maybe dispatch is second or an afterthought. They're getting access to this technology and they don't even have support for the technology they have. Right. So I think that's a bigger conversation. And I hope that, folks take this seriously when this is introduced into their center, because, for some statewide deployments like Kansas, that's just going to be something that's given to them. It just happens. They don't have to procure it or anything. So I just think awareness needs to happen for sure.
Absolutely.
Do you think that there's any generational issues?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
Nobody likes change, right? And the reason I bring this up is because, wow, years ago now, when I was working for the company that I was working for before I went out on my own, I had traveled to West Virginia. I was in Charleston. I was in Kanawha County. And I remember I went out there to train all of their dispatchers and call takers on text for 911. And I remember one of the training coordinators, he walks up and he goes, I don't know how this is going to work, man. I was like, why? He goes, there is a generation gap here, and I don't know if the more seasoned folks, how they're going to react to this. You've got the other folks from, a younger generation that are coming in that all they do is text, and they're probably going to take to it like water, right? And I was like, okay, we'll see how it works. And it was completely opposite. It was the younger generation that did not want to do it at all. Like, they were not down with it. And the more seasoned dispatchers that were there, those folks were eating it up. They were like, this is amazing. And they were doing it and just loving all of it. And I wonder if it's also because of the fact that it was also helping in a way that they didn't have the technology before. So now that they had it, they were embracing it because they were loving it, where the other folks, they're like, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think even the crustiest veteran, even the crustiest, oldest veteran is going to be open to new things, because they're always going to go back to those calls where they wish they would have had something else to help somebody.
Yes.
In a sense, I think new kids, I love them. I've got some youngsters on my staff. They're the best, most excited people ever, but they've never had to experience writing pages and pages of radio traffic. They've never had to experience cracking open a 25-year-old map book. So I think even your coldest veteran is going to be open to this in some degree. It's just, as a veteran or as an administrator, you have to figure out how to sell that to them. So you have to know where that little soft spot is in your veterans and drive them towards wanting to have this new technology. So
absolutely. I mean, everybody learns differently.
Yep.
Whether it's hands-on or whether it's repetitive, over and over being told the same thing.
Yep.
I think if you find their niche and how to sell it to them, it'd probably be a piece of cake.
And I think my oldest dispatchers, longest serving, are my biggest users, and they come to me with, oh, guess what I learned today, or guess how I use this, so I see a lot more action out of my older folks than I do my younger ones.
I think a lot of it is because, with the older generation, which, I'm pretty sure I'm in there, but, you never thought you would see it.
No.
And I think that's a lot of it. I never thought I would have video capabilities or, doing what I'm doing now. I never thought I'd see that.
Yep.
I assumed it was, possible one day, but I never thought I'd see it.
Right. It's like a lot of old sci-fi shows and stuff, right? Or even like the Twilight Zone. You see certain things that are on there
Right.
from years and years and years ago, and it's stuff that we're using now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, oh, it's here. But I do agree. It's all in the presentation. It's all in how you sell it, and there's also that power of storytelling where you speak to the person and say, um, think about a call that you took back when you didn't have this. Now you have it, and bam,
Yeah.
embrace it right there. So yeah, no, I love that. That is excellent. And so
But,
as
with
we're
all of this being said, not
uh-huh.
not to interrupt you,
No,
but
you're fine.
if
Go
there
ahead.
are those that just do not feel comfortable,
Mhm.
I think we need to respect that. And
Right.
and that's okay. You know
Mhm.
what? If you don't want to do it, that's fine. Because if you push somebody to do something like that, that in itself is going to be traumatic. Just saying.
No, I
I want
agree.
them to want to use it. I want them to want to have it, so yes, Jenny, you're totally right. And I think, there are some centers out there that mandate the use, and I'm not one of those centers, and I'll
I
continue
don't
to
agree
not be
with
one of
that.
those centers. I just feel like we need to give them tools. We don't need to force something that maybe
Yeah.
isn't going to add value to the call. Maybe it has no value whatsoever. So,
Right. No shaming.
yeah,
They've got to look at the big picture,
exactly.
And to the agencies that are out there that watch this or that are watching with us now, if you have questions, call our agency, ask about it, ask to hear the stories on what we do with it. But you got to look at the good and the bad. You have to do it together.
Yep.
Before you make a decision, most definitely.
For sure. And so I want to put this on the screen here really quick. So Peggy says, I am Jenny's mom and I'm retired now, but I would have been all in this.
Yeah.
Oh, Mama. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. Your mom is here. My mom is in the audience as well. I saw her
Awesome.
posting in there a little while ago.
Oh.
Oh, that is excellent. So
My
let's look
mom
at
is
some
in
of the use
heaven, so
cases.
she's watching too.
Oh,
She is.
yes,
My mom trained
definitely.
me.
Yeah.
She was the one that trained me.
That's so cool.
That is excellent.
I would not be nearly who or what I am without my mom and my dad. And my dad passed away in 2012, so but yeah.
So I want to look at some use cases here really quick before we wrap up this episode, which has been an excellent episode
Yeah.
here. This round has been awesome. Thank you both. So I want to start with Roxy and then go to Jenny on some of the ways that you're using video to 911. Now, Roxy, you had mentioned you're just getting into this and kind of putting some stuff out there. I've seen some stuff on social media where you've also talked about how you're starting to get into all of this. So how are you using this?
Well, it's been a slow progression, so that's what I want. I want them to slowly get there. But some of the first things we did is it's extraordinarily hot here in the summertime, like the surface of hell hot, and we have a huge animal problem here, and we have a lot of stray dogs and a lot of stray animals. And when it's 115 degrees and you have a husky that's lost, just delusionally wandering around a neighborhood, that's a problem. So, we try really hard to get those notifications out to people, but we were able to put, some pictures out immediately of this animal so we could get it out there and out of the elements. So, we've started simple with animal calls. We've had a deputy, we had a pretty major accident on our interstate, and the caller was just not helpful, and it was very confusing, and there were a lot of injuries, and we had a deputy that called in and showed us the scene. So he was able to kind of explain what was really going on, and here's what the driver did. So it was really educational for the people who were actually involved in the call. We also had an incident at our university of a woman who was attacked by a male that came into her residence hall. She was very shaken up, as you could expect. And her friend happened to get a video of him leaving. So she was able to drop that video to us, and we were able to immediately get that to our officers so they found the guy. So when you're dealing with people who are in crisis and not really able to collect their thoughts. That's huge. And I think maybe helped us find him sooner. So, those are just a few of the things that we've started to do. Like I told Ricardo, we get pictures of weird ass things that people find in their yards, like wagons and carburetors and the oddest stuff. But we're pretty simple so far, but it has really been a helpful tool that I'm not really sure how we did without it. So
yeah,
that's awesome. How about you, Jenny?
Oh, where do I start?
Jenny has way better ones than me.
Yeah. As I, before we went live, and I was explaining to Roxy, for you out there listening that don't know, we have Carbine, and Carbine was initially made for 911, but I use it for everything. I have led deputies to somebody that flipped over in a canoe, and they were just trying to get down to them. Let them right to the spot. I just send the link to my deputy's cell phone. I do the same thing for canine tracks, for lost children, lost people, to apprehend somebody, tactical situations. I think my favorite, as far as calls, you had asked me about, some calls. I had a call that I had taken with a female that called 911, and her husband was having a mental breakdown, threatening suicide, homicidal ideation, kind of a thing. And he did not know she was on the phone with me. And I explained to her that we would text back and forth. There would not be any noise. And she turned her camera on. So he just assumed she was texting with her friend Jenny. And everybody, I told my units about what I seen, and it's all documented. And with Carbine, you can take snapshots. It's really neat. So it's done in live time. I handled a shooting on the interstate, and my victim was on Carbine with me on 911, trying to get him in a safe location, and I was taking snapshots of the damage from the bullets that hit his vehicle, and so that was all sent to the cloud.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So,
man, there you have it. Video to 911.
They call me the Carbine Queen. That is.
Well, they need to get you like a crown and stuff then.
I know.
Or at least an award.
Or at least a shirt that says Carbine. Andrew, if you're watching.
Drew is in the audience. Yeah. See, and even Andrea, she says, yes, queen. That is excellent. So what I want to actually ask too before we go off the air here, and this one, for the both of you, because this was one of the things that Keely was wondering as well in the audience. So what was the implementation like? How did you prepare your folks or coworkers or whichever for this to go into place? Roxy, go ahead.
We talked about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about it for a good 6 months before we even decided to pull the trigger. Like, what is this going to be like? How do you feel about this? I would send them articles that I would find, just read this and tell me what you think. So we really talked about it. Mm-hmm. And then when we finally got there, I made sure that some of my key leaders had demos so they could see it. Mm-hmm. And buy into the process and understand why we chose the vendor that we chose. So very, very open communication. We had a great training session, encouraged people to talk about it. And I told them, I want to hear negatives too. Like, tell me what you're feeling that isn't good. Right. So just opening yourself up to hearing the excitement, but also the negative. Mm-hmm. And then we started very slow with limited call types. We didn't let them just go free for everything right off the bat. Right. We started slow, and we've just added to it once they felt more comfortable. I have not allowed them to utilize it for medical calls, just until I feel like they're in a place where they're open to that. We're going to keep that off limits for now, but I like to keep some of the use and the decisions and how we move forward in their hands, because I think that's going to give them more incentive and more ownership in the process. So I feel like it's gone well. Our vendor has kind of a competition piece in our video to 911 portal. So they like to compete and see who gets the most uses every week. And, so we've just tried to make it positive, and we've tried to continue to talk about it and be open with it. And I think that's made us successful.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that is awesome. What about you, Jenny? How did the whole thing come about?
It was basically, the same with my department. They leave it up to what we're comfortable with. They're very good with doing that. Our 911 director and our chief deputy chief, to the lieutenants on, everybody was very involved with learning about things. And I taught myself everything I know about carbine just because I'm a nerd, and we have rapid SOS too, so I read all the time. And but in that sense, I try to show everybody what I find. And Roxy, what you're saying with them being comfortable, I can tell you from experience that is the best way to go. Because like we were talking earlier, if they're not comfortable, they're not going to use it or use it properly.
No. And I think we've just had
and that will be a liability.
Right. And I think we've had so many other pieces of technology that were just dumped on us on a Friday, and they're like, okay, well, by Monday, get to using it.
Sink or swim.
I just try really hard not to be the poor examples of what I've been shown in technology rollouts, So I think just being open to hearing everybody's perspective is always a good way to go, for sure.
Most definitely.
Excellent. So as we go into the wrap up of this round, which has been phenomenal to have the both of you here
we'll have to
and
do
go
this
through
again.
all of this. Yes. And the amount of engagement in the audience. Thank you all for being here as well. For those who are, I guess, on the fence of implementing new technology, whether it be video, text, whatever it may be,
give us a call.
I was going to say, what is some advice? What is some advice that you have for those who are thinking about this? Let's start with you, Jenny.
Give us a call. Yeah, most definitely. Because at the end of the day, it's about saving a life, you guys. It's not about personal preference. It's not about whose program is better. Elsa, let it go. It's about saving a life at the end of the day.
Right.
So
awesome. What about you, Roxy?
I think the greatest things in both professional life and personal life come from stepping into your fear. I mean, you just got to lean into that fear and discomfort and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? You have to roll it back. What's the worst that could happen? So I think just being willing to step out of your comfort zone and be willing to step into that discomfort and fear and see where it goes and see what people think would be my number one piece of advice.
I mean, I think, with that being said, if we can survive the dot matrix printer and the map on the back of the wall,
yes,
and writing by pen and paper, technologies, make it your bitch.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Well, again, thank you both so very much for being on here. This was a lot of fun, and the audience was all about this. Keely says, of course, I had a full phone failure during the recommendations of rolling this out part. It's
Sorry,
there.
buddy.
It's there.
Sorry.
You'll be able to go back and check that part out. But again, thank you both very, very much. And, all of this is very exciting. So thank you for being on.
Absolutely.
So I will be right back here with the both of you in just one moment. And for all of you who are here, again, thank you so very much. I want to share something here really quick, though. And this is for something that is coming up. And as I mentioned before, this is next week already. So I want to play this here and then kind of give a little bit of information. Right after this, I need to change a setting here really quick so that you are able to hear this. But here we go. Check it out.
in Rapid SOS a software development capability that is available to the 911 operators, and to have those operators direct what Rapid SOS does. It's an amazing capability that any company would love to have.
We're sharing the location coming direct from the vehicle. It's the GPS coordinates. It's not a cross street, so it's not a highway mile marker. It is exactly where that car is.
Make quality assurance a positive thing. Make sure there's a recognition component, but also, kind of pairing your quality assurance program. It should be hand in hand with your training program.
So there you have it. There's a quick little promotional video there, and this is for Rapid SOS Ready 22, and they are extremely excited to be joined by public safety leaders from 911, field responders, and more. Once again, for Ready 22, this is a virtual event that's going to be going on next week. This is November 9th and 10th. So this year for Ready 22, they're going to feature 2 full days. That's 2 full days with 5 tracks of incredible sessions from industry partners, and this is also including that entire second day is dedicated to hearing from local ECC professionals from around the country. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be going on during those 2 days. So make sure to come and listen to a wide array of topics and learn from top-notch speakers. They have had the images going out there already of all the speakers that are going to be included, and also industry experts. So this information is going to be coming out. I'm going to be putting the link in there as well. That is rapidsos.com/ready22. And you're also going to, for example, get to hear from the Deputy National Secretary Advisor of the UK on what people wish they would have done differently after ransomware and cyber attacks. Now, that's a big thing. That's a big topic that people have been talking about for a while, but it's still huge. It's a buzz, right? So make sure to tune in for that. Also, listen to ECC directors on how they've solved their staffing challenges. Now, if that doesn't get you going, I don't know what will, because staffing shortages are all over the place, right? And challenges, but also to keep their staff resilient so you can see and learn these user experiences, and as well as the latest technologies feeding data into 911. Or about where public safety legislation is going in 2023. So again, Ready 22 is going to be featuring fantastic speakers in the lineup. So just for example, the director of the Washington, D.C. Office of Unified Communications, that's Karima Holmes, also a friend, hello, and Michelle Potts from Chandler PD, Brian Font, CEO of NINA, Jeff Cohen, Chief Counsel at APCO, as well as 3 former FCC chairman and the former vice president of research and development over at Apple. There's going to be many more. And I'm also going to be a part of that as well. I'll be the closing speaker. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to be talking about, but you will see when you get there. So make sure to check it out. Once again, in the comments, rapidsos.com/ready22. And they are also going to be a gold sponsor of Dare to Be Great 4. Thank you so very much for that. If you have any comments, questions, or you have any topics for the Dispatchers Roundtable, you can check us out, and that's going to be WTTpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is WTTpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is Facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This episode was sponsored by InDigital as well as Carbine, and shout out to patrons. As always, if you'd like to become a patron and help support us, you can check us out. And that'll be patreon.com/WTT podcast. Once again, that is patreon.com/WTT podcast. This can be seen on Facebook, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, as well as Twitter. And a perk for patrons only, audio versions of the DRT goes to you only. And for the flagship show, you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.